Back in Liberia, the days passed like a dream. Sierra was radiant, surrounded by family, friends, and the sights and sounds of the home she had missed. Minho watched her with quiet awe, as if every moment revealed a new piece of her he had yet to discover. One evening, after a long day spent with her family, Sierra led Minho to a quiet spot by the riverbank. The moonlight shimmered on the water, and fireflies danced around them like tiny sparks of magic. "Do you know why I brought you here?" she asked softly. Minho shook his head, his hand tightening around hers. "This is where I used to come when I was a girl," Sierra explained. "Whenever life felt heavy, I would sit here and dream of something greater, of someone who would see me for who I am." She turned to him, her smile glowing in the night. "And somehow, those dreams led me to you." Minho's chest tightened. For all his wealth and power, no one had ever spoken to him like that. He cupped her face gently, his thumb brushing her cheek. "Sierra, you are the dream I never knew I had, and I swear, I will spend the rest of my life proving that I was worthy of being chosen by you." Her eyes softened, tears shimmering. She leaned forward, her lips brushing his in a kiss that was tender and unhurried, as if time itself had slowed to watch. His arms wrapped around her waist, drawing her close, their bodies pressed together beneath the wide African sky. The kiss deepened, sweet, lingering, full of promises. When they finally parted, breathless, Sierra rested her head against his chest. "You've given me the world, Minho. But more than that, you've given me love." He held her tighter, whispering into her hair. "And you've given me life." The river flowed quietly beside them. The stars glittered above, and in that moment, neither Seoul's skyscrapers nor the shadows of enemies mattered. What mattered was here, two hearts entwined, beating as one. And for the first time, Kong Minho, once a man of ice, felt truly free, because love, Sierra's love, had finally set him alight. Their honeymoon wasn't in Paris, Venice, or any of the glittering cities people expected of Kong Minho. Instead, Sierra chose Zanzibar, a place where the ocean stretched endlessly, where the air smelled of salt and spice, and where no one knew them as CEO and secretary. For once, Minho didn't carry a laptop, didn't check stock reports, didn't answer calls. He carried only her hand. On their first night, they walked barefoot along the shore, the waves lapping at their feet, the moon spilling silver over the water. Sierra's laughter floated on the breeze as she tugged him closer to the tide. "You're too stiff, Minho. Relax. Feel the ocean." He smirked, letting her pull him forward, though his eyes never left her. "I feel it, but mostly I feel you." Her cheeks warmed. "You're learning," she teased. "I have the best teacher," he replied, lowering his forehead to hers. The kiss that followed was slow, sweet, lingering as the waves whispered around them. Later, back in their villa, Sierra sat on the balcony wrapped in his white shirt, her hair tousled by the sea breeze. Minho stepped behind her, sliding his arms around her waist. He pressed a kiss to the curve of her neck, making her shiver. "You've turned my world upside down," he murmured. "I never thought I could live without the rush of business, without the fight for power. But here with you, I don't want anything else." Sierra leaned back against him, her voice soft. "That's because love is the only empire worth keeping." Her words struck him deeper than any victory ever had. He turned her gently in his arms, searching her eyes, and whispered, "Then let me build it with you." Their lips met again, this time deeper, fiercer, like a vow written in the language of touch. The night wrapped around them, the stars bearing witness as they lost themselves in each other completely. By dawn, when sunlight spilled across the ocean, Minho lay awake with Sierra curled against him. He brushed his fingers through her hair, whispering, "You're my forever, Sierra, my home, my heart, my everything." She stirred, half asleep, and murmured back, "And you're mine." And with that, the ruthless CEO who once ruled boardrooms with an iron will surrender wholly, happily, to the gentlest, fiercest power of all love. On their third evening in Zanzibar, Minho surprised Sierra with something unusual he cooked. The villa's kitchen was small and cozy, and Sierra laughed in disbelief when she saw the mighty CEO fumbling with vegetables and fish he had bought at the local market. His sleeves were rolled up, his hair slightly messy, and he wore an apron that looked far too ordinary for him. "Are you sure you know what you're doing?" Sierra teased, leaning against the counter. Minho gave her a mock glare. "I've conquered billion-dollar mergers, Sierra. How hard can cooking be?" 5 minutes later, he dropped a spoon with a loud clatter, splattering sauce on his shirt. Sierra burst into laughter, clutching her stomach. "You're impossible," she cried, wiping a tear. Minho sighed dramatically, then closed the distance between them. "And yet you love me." He dipped his finger into the sauce and gently tapped it on her nose. She gasped, swatting at him. "Kong Minho." But before she could retaliate, he pulled her close, kissing the sauce from her nose, then her lips. The kiss deepened quickly, forgetting the simmering pot behind them. When they broke apart, breathless, Minho whispered against her lips, "You taste far better than anything I could cook." Dinner ended up being simple, half-burnt, half-edible. But Sierra declared it the most perfect meal, because he had made it for her. That night, after their playful chaos, they retreated to the rooftop terrace of the villa. The sky was painted with stars, the ocean humming below. Sierra lay in his arms, her head resting on his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. "Do you ever regret leaving your world behind to be here with me?" she asked softly. Minho tightened his hold around her, kissing her forehead. "Sierra, my world was empty before you. I had wealth, power, respect, but no peace, no love, no one to come home to." His voice grew husky. "Now, every time I hold you, I feel like I finally belong somewhere." Her eyes glistened as she looked up at him. "You belong here," she whispered, placing her hand over his heart. "With me, always." He bent down, kissing her deeply, tenderly, as the night wrapped around them. And in that kiss, both of them knew. This was more than a honeymoon. It was the beginning of a lifetime of choosing each other over and over again. The nights in Zanzibar grew softer, slower. Each one seemed to peel away another layer of the guarded CEO and the resilient secretary who once tiptoed around him. One evening, Minho led Sierra to the private stretch of beach near their villa. The tide was low, leaving the sand cool and smooth beneath their feet. He spread out a blanket, lit lanterns that glowed like fire in the dark, and placed a small box in the center. Sierra tilted her head. "Another gift? Haven't you spoiled me enough?" He shook his head, his eyes warm. "This isn't about spoiling you, Sierra. It's about showing you how much you mean to me." When she opened the box, she found a delicate silver anklet with tiny charms shaped like stars. He knelt in the sand, sliding it gently onto her ankle, his fingers brushing against her skin with reverence. "So that wherever you walk, you'll carry the stars with you, like the way you light my path." Her breath caught. She bent down, cupping his face in her hands, and whispered, "Minho, no one has ever loved me the way you do." His lips curved into a rare, boyish smile. "That's because no one else ever saw you the way I do." They kissed there with the sea as witness, the kind of kiss that was slow at first, then deepened with the hunger of two souls who had waited their whole lives to be truly known. His hands traced her back as he pulled her closer, her fingers threading into his hair. Later, beneath the starlight, they lay wrapped together, whispering promises that didn't need grand gestures or contracts. "I'll follow you anywhere, Sierra," Minho murmured against her shoulder. "To the ends of the earth, to the quietest corners, as long as you're with me. And I'll love you through every storm," she replied softly, "because you're worth every fight, every risk." The night wrapped around them like silk, the waves singing lullabies as they held each other. And in the hush between heartbeats, they both understood. This was more than romance. This was forever. The fourth night in Zanzibar was quieter. The ocean breeze was warm, the villa lit only by soft candles that flickered along the balcony. Sierra had wrapped herself in a flowing white dress that brushed against her ankles, her hair loose and shining in the glow. When Minho saw her, he froze for a moment. He had seen her in business suits, in simple sweaters, even in tears and exhaustion. But tonight, she looked like something he could never deserve. "You're staring," Sierra teased, but her voice trembled under the weight of his gaze. "I'm memorizing," he replied simply, stepping closer until their breaths mingled. "Every detail, because I never want to forget what perfection looks like." Her cheeks warmed, and before she could respond, his lips captured hers. The kiss was slow, reverent, yet tinged with the hunger of a man who had held back for far too long. He led her to the balcony, where the night stretched endlessly, the stars scattered like diamonds. The world felt far away, no soul, no business, no enemies. Just them. As he held her close, Minho whispered against her ear, "Sierra, before you, I was a man made of stone, cold, untouchable. But you've carved warmth into me. You've made me human." She pressed a hand to his chest, feeling the steady, strong rhythm of his heart. "And you've given me wings," she murmured. "You've shown me I can love without fear." Their words dissolved into kisses, deeper and more urgent, their bodies molding together as the sea sang below. The night grew thick with passion, yet every touch was gentle, every sigh filled with devotion. Later, tangled in each other beneath silk sheets, Sierra traced the scar on his shoulder with her fingertip. "This is my favorite," she said softly. He glanced at her, surprised. "Why?" "Because it reminds me you're real. Not some untouchable CEO. Not a story in the news. Just a man. My man." She kissed the scar tenderly, making his throat tighten. "Sierra?" His voice broke slightly as he gathered her into his arms, holding her as if she were his very breath. "Promise me one thing. Never stop looking at me like that." Her lips brushed him once more, slow and unhurried. "As long as I live, Minho, I'll never see anyone but you." And as dawn spilled across the horizon, painting the ocean gold, they lay entwined, two souls who had finally found the love they were destined for. By the fifth night, Minho had planned something different. He arranged for a small wooden dhow to take them out onto the ocean at sunset. The sky burned orange and violet, the waves gentle, the horizon endless. Sierra leaned against him, the sea breeze tugging at her hair. "This feels like a dream," she whispered. Minho kissed her temple. "Then I never want to wake up." As the boat drifted farther into the deep blue, the crew left them alone, giving them privacy. Lanterns swayed above, casting golden reflections on the water. Minho knelt in front of Sierra, taking her hands into his. "You know," he began softly, "I used to think love was a weakness, something that distracted men from their goals. But with you, Sierra, love is the strongest thing I've ever known. You've made me fearless in a way money and power never could." Her eyes shone, tears threatening. "And you've made me safe in a way nothing else ever did." He kissed her fingertips, then her wrist, trailing slowly up her arm. Sierra's breath hitched as his lips finally found hers. The kiss deepened, urgent yet tender, like waves crashing and retreating all at once. They lay back on the cushions spread across the boat, the night sky blooming above them. His hands explored her gently, reverently, as if she were something sacred. Her fingers tangled in his hair, pulling him closer, their hearts beating in sync. When the stars emerged, they lay wrapped together, the boat rocking softly. Sierra traced invisible patterns on his chest and whispered, "Do you know what I prayed for as a little girl?" He shook his head, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Someone who would fight for me, not against me. Someone who would see me, not just look at me. And here you are." Minho tightened his arms around her, his voice husky. "And here I'll stay, always." The sea carried them gently under the blanket of stars. And in that moment, nothing else existed but two souls who had finally found their home in each other. Sierra gasped when she saw it. A table set for two, draped in white, surrounded by rose petals scattered across the sand. Min-ho, this is beautiful. Not as beautiful as you, he murmured, pulling out her chair with surprising gentleness. They dined on fresh seafood and sweet mangoes, laughing more than they ate. For once, the great CEO didn't look like a man carved from steel. He laughed easily, his eyes soft, his hand always reaching for hers across the table. When dessert was cleared away, music began to drift from somewhere unseen, a soft melody carried by the wind. Min-ho stood and held out his hand. Dance with me. Sierra laughed nervously. On the sand. Yes, he said simply. On the sand. With me. She placed her hand in his, and he drew her into his arms. They swayed barefoot, the waves lapping at their feet, her head resting against his chest. The music faded, but neither of them noticed. The rhythm of his heartbeat became her song. Promise me something, Sierra whispered. Anything, he replied. No matter how busy life gets back in Seoul. No matter how loud the world becomes. Promise me we'll always find this. Just like this. He tipped her chin up, his gaze steady. I promise, Sierra. You are my only constant. My only peace. Their lips met again, tender and slow, as if sealing that vow with the ocean and stars as witnesses. The kiss deepened until they sank into the sand, laughter mingling with sighs, their bodies finding each other in the hush of night. Every touch was reverent, every caress an unspoken declaration. Later, wrapped in each other under the starlit sky, you'll never be without me. And as the tide kissed the shore, they drifted into sleep, two souls bound in a love stronger than distance, stronger than fear, stronger than anything that lay ahead. Cameras flashed outside the airport. Reporters shouted questions, and Sky, Min-ho whispered, I used to think the world was mine, but now I know. The world is nothing without you in it. Sierra smiled sleepily against his chest. Then fans tried to push past security for a glimpse of Kang Min-ho and his new bride. Sierra gripped his hand tightly. It was overwhelming. The chaos, the attention. But Min-ho wrapped his arm protectively around her shoulders and leaned close. Eyes on me, he whispered. Always me. And just like that, the noise faded for her. She nodded, holding on. Their marriage was the talk of the city. Headlines screamed. The untouchable CEO finally claimed. From secretary to wife, Sierra, the woman who stole Min-ho's heart. At first, the gossip stung Sierra. Rumors about her background, whispers about whether she was worthy. But Min-ho never wavered. At every event, every board meeting, every dinner, he kept her by his side. His hand in hers, his gaze steady and fierce, daring anyone to question her place. One evening, after a particularly long day of public scrutiny, Sierra retreated to the balcony of their penthouse. The city lights glittered below, but her chest felt heavy. Min-ho found her there, arms wrapped around herself. Without a word, he stepped behind her, pulling her gently into his embrace. Tell me what's in your heart, he murmured. She exhaled shakily. Sometimes I feel like I don't belong here, Min-ho, like I'm just temporary. What if the world never accepts me? He turned her in his arms, cupping her face. His eyes burned with certainty. Listen to me, Sierra. You don't need this world's acceptance. You have mine. And as long as I live, you will never be temporary. You are my forever. Her throat tightened, tears spilling as he kissed them away, one by one. Then his lips found hers, slow and tender at first, before deepening with a fierce need to remind her she was everything. Later, lying together with the city glowing beyond their windows, Sierra whispered, You make me feel invincible. And Min-ho, resting his forehead against hers, replied, That's because with you, I finally am. Weeks turned into months, and life in Seoul became a rhythm of love and fire for Sierra and Min-ho. By day, he was still the powerful CEO, commanding boardrooms with icy precision. But by night, he was hers alone, softer, warmer. A man who loved nothing more than cooking late dinners with her in their penthouse kitchen or stealing kisses while the city glittered beneath them. Yet the world around them was not always kind. Tabloids dug into Sierra's past, twisting her childhood in Liberia into cruel headlines. Some business partners whispered that Minho had grown weak since marrying her. One evening, after a particularly vicious article went viral, Sierra tried to put on a brave face. She served him tea, smiled faintly, and said, "Don't worry, Minho, I can handle it." But he saw the crack in her voice. He set down his cup, pulled her into his lap, and held her tightly. "No," he said firmly, his voice low. "You don't have to handle it alone. If they want to fight, they fight me. You." He kissed her hair, her forehead, her trembling lips. "You are my peace, and I'll protect that with everything I am." Her tears fell freely then, but they were tears of love, not pain. She whispered against his chest, "You always make me feel like I'm the only one." "That's because you are," he murmured, his lips trailing along her jaw. "In a room full of 1,000 people, Sierra, I will only ever see you." Their kiss that night was different. Not just passion, but a vow. A vow that no headline, no rumor, no world could break what they had built. Later, lying tangled in silk sheets, Sierra traced her fingers over his jawline. "Do you know what I dream of?" "What?" he asked softly. "A future where we're not fighting the world, but building our own. Family. A life that's just ours." For a long moment he said nothing. Then his eyes softened, and a rare smile touched his lips. "Then let's make it real, Sierra. Starting now." Her breath caught, not because of the words, but because of the way he said them. Fierce, certain, like a man ready to give her everything. And under the soul night sky, their hearts beat together, as if already carrying the promise of something more. Life and soul has become a balancing act. The media still swirled with noise, but Sierra and Minho found ways to shut the world out. One rainy evening, the city lights blurred against the window as they sat curled up on the couch. Sierra wore one of his shirts, her legs tucked beneath her, while Minho scrolled through business reports on his tablet. She pouted. "You promised no work tonight." He looked up, guilty. "Caught me." He set the tablet aside instantly and leaned closer. "How do I make it up to you?" Her smile turned mischievous. "Dance with me." "In the living room?" He chuckled, but her raised brow dared him. So he rose, took her hand, and pulled her into his arms. With no music except the rain tapping the glass, they swayed slowly. Sierra rested her cheek against his chest, listening to the steady thrum of his heart. "You know," she whispered, "this is when I love you the most. Not when you're in your suit commanding a room, but like this, just mine." He tightened his hold on her, lowering his lips to her ear. "I've always been yours, Sierra, even before I knew it." Her breath hitched as he kissed her, first softly, then deeper, until the rain and the world outside disappeared. His hands trailed down her back, hers tangled in his hair, their kiss turning into something that set fire to the quiet night. Later, lying together on the rug with the storm still raging outside, Sierra traced lazy circles on his chest. "Promise me something," she murmured. "Anything," he said, brushing her hair back. "No matter how powerful you become, no matter what the world says about us, promise me you'll never stop being this man. The one who holds me, who listens, who loves me like I'm enough." His eyes softened. He took her hand and kissed each fingertip slowly. "Sierra, you are not enough." She blinked, startled. "You are everything." Her throat tightened, tears stinging, and she pulled him into a kiss that was all love, all devotion, all the promise of forever. And in that stormlit night, Kong Minho, once a man of steel, found himself undone once more, not by power or money, but by the simple, unshakable truth. Sierra was his whole world. Years passed, and Soul came to accept what had once been controversial. The secretary-turned-wife was no longer just a headline. Sierra became admired in her own right, standing gracefully beside Minho, supporting his empire while building a life of her own. But their greatest victory wasn't in boardrooms or on magazine covers. It was in the quiet moments. The mornings when Sierra woke to Minho watching her with a softness only she ever saw. The evenings when he came home early, dropping his briefcase at the door just to scoop her into his arms. The nights when they fell asleep wrapped around each other, their love as steady as the city lights outside. And then came the day Sierra placed his hand gently over her stomach, tears shining in her eyes. Minho, we're going to have a baby. For the first time, the great CEO was speechless. His breath caught, his knees nearly gave way. Then, with trembling hands, he gathered her close and whispered, "You've given me everything I never knew I wanted. Sierra, you've given me a legacy worth more than empires." Months later, when their daughter was born, Minho wept openly as he held her, a tiny bundle with Sierra's eyes. He kissed Sierra's forehead, voice thick with emotion. "You've made me a father. You've made me whole." Together, they built not just a family, but a love that grew deeper with every year. Their daughter grew up seeing her parents dance in the living room, kiss in the kitchen, laugh in the rain. Proof that love, real love, could weather anything. And so, the man once feared as untouchable, and the woman once doubted by the world, wrote a story greater than scandal or power. They wrote a story of devotion, a passion, a forever, because in the end, Kang Minho didn't just gain a wife. He found his home, his peace, his everything, in Sierra. And Sierra, fearless and steadfast, had not only stolen his heart, she had transformed it. Together, they lived, loved, and built a legacy not of wealth, but of love that would never fade. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy the story, please leave a comment, also like, share, and subscribe to my channel, and click on the notification icon so that you will get notified whenever a new story is uploaded.